And I think that can really hurt businesses that are very young and don't have the luxury of time. I like to lead by example, and I can be very demanding. How we can change the way the supply chain and the manufacturing processes work towards having a lower impact, and how we can apply that to all the different consumption objects in our society. Solios Watches, I think, is being the first ever B Corp certified watch company in the world. You need to be multi-channel to really build a structure that is going to be successful on the long run. And so I don't think everyone can be a very good leader, but everyone can be a better leader, that's for sure.
Welcome to Business Minds. Today we're very happy to host Alexandre Desabrais, co-founder of Solios Watches. Alexandre, thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you very much. So this interview will focus mostly on the notion of leadership. So we know you have an entrepreneurship path, which is very specific. So we want to dig as much as we can in this aspect of your career. So we would like to start by asking you what exactly your role consists in and what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, absolutely. So I co-founded Solios with my partner Sam a little more than 4 years ago, and we're both co-CEOs. So that's something that might seem a little bit unusual, but we really try to stay on top, both of us at the same time. But he's more handling the operation and finance side, and I'm more handling all the sales and marketing side of the company. But I also want to add special projects, so innovation and sustainable, the environmental impact of our company. That's on my part. So the B Corp certification, the overall materials that we're using in our products, reducing the green gas emissions. So all these projects are on my side, on top of the marketing.
Perfect. So we will dive in a little bit more later, but I would like to ask you to explain simply in a few words what Solios is. Just in a few words.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, Solios, at Solios, we believe in shaping a better tomorrow. And we do that by creating and promoting sustainable solutions that have a positive impact beyond fashion. And what we're doing right now to accomplish this mission is really to create the most exciting, the most elegant, sustainable solar watches. So this is what we've been doing for more than 4 years, and we really want to take something, an industry that is very conservative, that people don't really think as forward-thinking, and really change the dogmatic, really change the way people perceive fashion and want to buy their consumption products. Yeah.
Perfect. So again, we want to have the theme of this interview around the notion of leadership. So we would like to understand where it started. So my first question is pretty simple now. Where did you grow up? And what kind of job were you dreaming of doing when you were a kid?
So I grew up on the north shore of Montreal in a city called Terrebonne. Then I moved to Montreal right around university. When I was younger, except becoming a professional hockey player, like almost all kids in Quebec wanted to do at some point, I was actually naturally good at school. I think I had this type of intelligence where school was really it was more easy for me. So obviously all the people around me were telling me, you should be a doctor. So I started believing them I should be a doctor. Oh. But then when I was in high school, I did one-day internships in biochemistry and in the cardiology. And then both of these doctors had a private clinic as well. And when I came back home from these 2 days, I was really excited to talk to my parents and especially my mother about how exciting it was and how amazing their career was. And the more I was talking, the more she was telling me, Alex, I really encourage you of becoming a doctor, but are you sure you're not more excited about the private clinic stuff, about the management of something that you own? And that's when I really realized that, okay, that's maybe the business part of it is what I really like. And I'm maybe not attracted as much towards the medicine part of it. So that's when I realized what I wanted to do for real.
Very interesting. And what kind of character were you as a kid?
Very social. I always liked being surrounded by my friends. I think I always wanted to kind of do activities with them, a lot of sports. I was moving a lot. I was not agitated, so I was more like not disciplined, but not agitated, like somewhere in between those two. But something for sure, I love being surrounded by people. I love proposing new activities. I love trying new stuff. More than just focusing on one thing, I love experimenting a lot of things.
Okay, perfect. And so you talked about the social part of your character,
Yes.
and also the interest in management.
Yeah.
Did you ever have, as a young kid, this leadership fiber already? And if so, how did it manifest when you were younger?
I think I did. When I'm thinking about myself when I was younger, I loved like explaining things to people, like making people understand the things that I understood. I loved leading people to new activities, but I wasn't the most influential person in every room. So I was not like that one guy that everyone wants to follow all the time. So I think I had this kind of natural leadership, but that needed to be developed. And that's also my view about leadership. I think like there's something innate about it, but I also think that if you don't work to really develop it, if you don't work towards leading the right people on the right stuff at the right time, you're not really exploiting your full potential. So I think I had some leadership inside me, but really wanted and needed to develop it over time, which I think really happened at university.
Excellent. So we will get to that later. What studies did you pursue? And did you have a clear goal in mind when you were studying?
Yeah, so it's changed over time. So I studied at HEC Montreal in business and specializing in finance, but I like to say that I specialized in networking. So I like the idea of like how the finance stuff works. Like I love mathematics. I'm good at mathematics. I love to understand, like try to predict things based on facts and your analysis of things. But I knew that I didn't really want to go into finance. Like when I got to university, I thought I wanted to be an investment banker. But then after talking to a lot of people, after meeting a lot of people, I realized I don't like money that much. I want to have something that I'm really passionate about. I want to have something more creative. I want to mix the analytical part of my brain with like the desire to be more creative every day. And that's how I think I developed this kind of love for entrepreneurship. And that's how I realized that, all right, that's what I want to do, but I'm still going to continue my path in finance until the end. And then I'm going to find an idea at some point, and then I'm going to work on it. But for now, let's just focus on meeting as much people as I can and understanding the mechanics of finance.
Beautiful. And so at the time, did you already like envision yourself to become a successful entrepreneur?
Not really. I wanted to be successful, but I wouldn't say that I could clearly see myself. I knew I would work extremely hard towards something that really excites me, but I didn't know what. So it's hard to project yourself when you don't know exactly where you're going to be. So I just thought, let's just work hard in everything, like any situation I'm in. Let's just never stop meeting with people, exploring new ideas. And at some point, I'm going to find that one thing that's going to make me have that vision towards my vision and my side of success. But I've always wanted to be successful. I just didn't know how and when and what I would do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it seems like you were getting there close.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so.
Who were in the past your inspiration figures? Did you have any role models growing up?
Yeah, I know it's gonna sound a little cliche, but my parents were really inspirations for me, and the reason why, of course, like they were like loving parents, and I had like a really good childhood. Like I'm very privileged as a person, but the thing that was really special for me is how much of like partners they were to each other. They were not just like two parents in a family. They were not just like two people living under the same roof. They were really partners, and they are still to this day partners in everything they do. They have common projects all the time. They support each other in their careers. They really push themselves to seek like new project and ideas. even in their travels. So for me, it really taught me that in life, it's extremely important to have someone next to you in your personal life or in your business life that can really be your partner, that can really like put more focus on how we can get better together rather than just like having everything accomplished by yourself.
That's more inspiring than most of what we heard so far. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to another section, focusing more on your career path and the milestones you've went through. Number one, how did your career start?
Yeah, so I finished school, and my mom told me you need to find a job now, which is pretty normal.
Yeah.
So having a bachelor in finance, I started working for a consulting firm in finance for corporate investment banking for major banks across the world. It's a French bank, and they had like this corporate investment part here in North America. So very glamour, like working in finance, wearing a suit every day, going to dinner with the big guys, and like having a mandate in Montreal, another one in New York. But on the other side, I was kind of miserable. Like I counted the hours that I was working. I wasn't passionate about it at all. I didn't think I was adding value at all. I was just like there, I think, for billable hours for the client. And I don't know, I didn't see myself like adding any value in anything I was doing at that time, except
How
for...
so? Sorry, can I say how so?
I was a junior consultant for a major bank. And it was like, my role was it was called mapping. So basically what I had to do is really to create a new link between any accounting principle in the bank towards a new IT system. But the reality is I had no idea what I was doing. So it was like trials and errors for like hours and hours and hours and hours. And I thought like I'm losing so much time. There's no way it's profitable to that company. There's no way I'm adding value to them. And there's also the fact that for me, just playing with the numbers, just playing with like the money or the structure of the money, that's not something I really wanted to do. So it didn't last long. I decided to switch completely and to go work in business development for a young technology startup in Montreal. It was called District 10 at the time. And then I had a lot of fun. I developed new skills. People were calling me crazy for going in sales when I had a bachelor in finance and having like a clear path to like being a early manager or something like that. But I really had fun discovering completely new side of business. So I was working with marketing agencies or marketing departments in different companies. I was working in tech. I was working in a company that was growing extremely fast. It was a cool environment. I had amazing colleagues. So I really saw that it was possible to work hard, but also to have a lot of fun while you're working. And that was for me extraordinary. And at some time, I just realized that, okay, I'm someone who can do the same thing for a period of time that is too long. So I was doing sales, and of course I was evolving as a salesperson, but I got, I think, a little tired, and it showed in my performance, in my results. So they decided that moving me to another city would maybe like spark that spark some interest in me towards like becoming more performant. So I moved to Toronto and launched like the new side. It was the demand side that they were calling it. So the demand side, we launched it in Toronto. And that was a tipping point in my career, but not for the same reason, but that was a very important point for me, because that's exactly where during the day I was working for District M, but every morning I was waking up much earlier, and during the night I was going to sleep much later to start building Solios with my partner, Sam. So that was a very important moment in my life.
Okay, that's a perfect transition for my next question. When and how did you think of creating Solios?
Yep.
And can you tell us a bit more about the concept, how it got created and everything?
Yeah, so at that point in my life, I knew that I wanted to start a business. And having worked with Sam on school projects, I knew that we had a similar vision. We were very good friends, working very well together. So we thought, okay, like it's not a done deal, but it would be a good idea to start working on different ideas to find like what to start as a business together. And at first, we just went from an idea to another, and like we thought of buying companies and then trying to just restructure them and make them profitable. And then on the other side, we thought of starting a marketplace for gaming accessories, but problem was I'm not a gamer. I'm not as interested in gaming at all. So I've put maybe 200-300 hours, and then after that, I just like naturally let it go. So we realized, no, we need to be very passionate about what we're doing. And during that time, we just at some night, like we worked together. The whole day was a weekend day. Then during the night, we just put a documentary on. It was Before the Flood with Leonardo DiCaprio about climate change and our life habits or consumption habits and how it affects the environment around us and how the environment will affect us back. And at that point, we realized, despite not having any bad intentions, our life habits are extremely bad for the environment. So from now on, we realize, okay, anything we're going to build needs to be a much better / the best alternative for the environment in that industry. And at the same time, we need to try to use that to convince people and help people to transition towards having better consumption habits. And so we had different ideas, but there's one day where Sam was traveling to Greece, and he just saw like all these beautiful minimalist watches on everyone's wrist, but they were pretty much fast fashion watches. And at the same time, like he looked at the sun, the Greek sun, and he called me, and it was probably the most expensive call of our lives because he was calling from Greece and I was in Toronto at the time. And he said, we should launch solar powered watches. So watches that would still be affordable. So you have like regular quartz watches where they are affordable, they are accessible, but you need to change a battery once in a while. And let's be honest, we never change a battery. We change a watch eventually. We all have like probably 10, 15, 20 watches at home. They just sit there and we say we're going to change a battery, but it just never happens. And so on the other side, you have the mechanical watches that last a very long time, but they need maintenance to last, and they are usually much, much more expensive. And so we thought, why not creating a watch that is solar powered? So it's going to be just as accessible as a quartz watch, but it's going to last as long as a mechanical watch without the maintenance. And from that idea, that was like the main pillar. But then we said, okay, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to make it as sustainable as possible without ever compromising on anything else, any other buying criteria. So the style obviously is the number one. You can have a watch that is like the most eco-friendly on the planet. If it doesn't look good, no one's going to buy it. So the style was number one criteria. Then the accessibility was number two. And then sustainability was number three, but we wanted to be the most sustainable watch in the world. And that's still our goal to this day.
Okay, I have a question there. Is the reason why it was like the idea was like found in Greece, the reason why Solios has some Greek accent to it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a funny story there. So, okay, the PR story is that Helios is the Greek god for sun. And so solar or solaire in French or soleil, like this is like directly related to the sun as well. And so we thought, okay, so and the last part of Helios, which is Lios or Solios. But the reality is we wanted to be called Helios. And at some point we met a consultant, a guy that has his marketing agency here in Montreal, a creative agency. And he was just advising us, and he said, okay, so what's the name of your project? And we said, Helios. So he typed it on Google, and he said, good luck. We said, oh, why? He said, look at how many different companies are named Helios. And we said, yeah, there's nowhere. We talked to some lawyers, like we're going to be able to have the trademark for this specific product category. He said, no, forget about the legal stuff. Like if in 10 years from now, I'm telling you that just because of your name, you probably lost 30% of your web traffic. Are you going to be happy with that? So we said, no, we're not going to be happy with that. But we had prototypes that were being built to be ready for our Kickstarter campaign a few months from there. And we had lawyers working on the trademark that same day, so we had to change the name in just a couple of hours. So we left the building. We had to go work to our previous jobs at a time, but at the same time, we wrote to like dozens of our friends, okay, guys, you need to give us like hundreds of ideas of new names, and it needs to be the exact same length. It needs to be ending with Lios, because the prototypes were already being built with that like little and on the logo on the watch.
Wow. Okay.
And so we just like drilled down all the names, and by the night we sent everything to our suppliers, sent everything to the lawyers, and we were officially named Solios.
Wow. Wow, that's a pretty good result, actually. It's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, actually, I liked it much more. I like it much more than Helios today.
Good job.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for the story. That's beautiful. I would like to move forward a little bit with your role as a leader in that organization, or maybe with your previous experiences as well.
Yeah.
My question is, when was the first time you experienced a position of leadership, and how did you feel about it? Did it feel any different? Were you considered differently?
So officially, my first real role as a business leader is with Solios. That's where really we're building our own company, we're building our own team. All the decisions at some point needs to go through us. We're giving a lot of liberty to everyone, of course, but it needs to be like under this like umbrella of what we've created. But not officially. I think in my previous job, I was not a professional leader. I think I was like a leader as a team member. I think just people liked being surrounded by me. People liked having some advice by me. I had some energy that I was feeling was good to other people. And I think a good manager and a good leader are two different things. And even though I was not a manager at all, and I'm not going to pretend I was managing them at all, I think they were listening to me because they wanted to, because I was like genuinely interested in what they were saying, in what they were doing. And so I was spending time with them and communicating a lot with them. And so I think that's where I felt like a leader can be a lot of different things. And I think I'm a personal leader in that organization. But then in Solios, that's where I realized that, okay, now I need to mix both of my leadership aspiration and my managing requirements together and become a good leader and manager at the same time.
Excellent. And what were the biggest turning points in your career? And not necessarily with the perspective of the leadership, but in general, including it. Yeah.
I would say, okay, so there's two different answers that can be given there. The first one would be when I was moved to Toronto with my previous job with District M. Because I had so much time to think and read and work and test and just do different stuff. And that's where and when we came up with the idea of Solios, and that's where and when I really developed that passion towards like going extremely deep into a subject to build a company, the company that it is today. So for me, that was a tipping point, because if I would have stayed in Montreal, probably that I would have worked just as hard for my employer. But then when my job would be over, I would probably be like hanging out with my family and my friends. And so being there, I really had time for myself to really focus on like, what do I want to be? What do I want to do in my life? So that was one tipping point for me, for sure. Another one would be the Kickstarter campaign for Solios, for sure. So that was like a make or break for me and Sam. The way we launched Solios, it launched in April 2019, but it got financed and we made the official move in October 2018, October 18th. So that was when we did the event for the launch of our Kickstarter campaign. And that day, what we did is that we organized a very organic Kickstarter campaign. So no massive investment in marketing or anything else or in PR. But we said, all right, we're going to just like organize an event, make it as nice as possible, present our idea, invite as much people as we can. And if there is a good answer from people, that means that we're onto something. That means that we need to quit our job and jump like full time for Solios. So we said, all right, if we reach our goal that night, we quit the exact same day, our jobs. And so we organized the event. It was in Montreal in a theater. Rialto Theater, and we had to fill 500 people in the room. So it seems like not being too bad, but it was quite a lot, like not having anyone like inner circle. And that's where the networking bachelor really paid off. So, so we just started writing like personal message to probably like 2,000-3,000 people, like, hey, like having like a real deep, honest connection with them, and then telling them like what's our project and if they wanted to assist to the event. And we sent so many messages that Facebook thought that we were a robot spamming people, so they blocked us for days. But it was actually us writing like real personal message to people. And I think the fact that it was a personal message really paid off, because more than 600 people showed up that night. And during the same night, we managed to make, how much was it? I think it was more than $65,000 of sales during that night only. And our objective was 25,000 for the whole campaign, for the whole month. And our previous bosses were in the room, so we just went to see them and said, like, yeah, I guess this is it.
On the same night?
On the same night, wow. They were there. Yeah. Wow. But they were so supportive, and they still are. It was amazing to see them there. They really encouraged us. They even bought watches from us during the campaign. So we're extremely lucky, extremely privileged to be surrounded by people like that.
Amazing. I don't know what to add to this. I will ask this question regardless, even though you talked about it already, and I don't want to assume anything. What are you most proud of in your career as of this day?
I would say the thing that I'm the most proud of is like Solios wise, I think, is being the first ever B Corp certified watch company in the world. Because for us, that was really important. From the day we started Solios, we said, we're not going to bullshit people. We're not going to greenwash people. We're going to say we're not perfect, but we're still going to work towards being the #1 most sustainable watch in the world. And having that certification so early on and being the first in the industry showed us that even though we're not watchmakers, even though we're first-time entrepreneurs, we managed to do something meaningful, and we managed to show people that we're honest about the way we're developing our business. And for me, that was always the #1 thing, because I was in sales before, and the one thing that I don't like in sales is sometimes you need to twist reality a little bit to make the sale. Otherwise, you're not going to make your numbers. And that's something that I really don't like. I prefer, like, I love marketing. I love selling to people. But if there's something that's just not true, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to turn around and just work as hard as I can to make it true, and then come back and tell you that it is true. And so having this certification for me, and I think for us, for the whole team, was something that, and still is something that we're extremely, extremely proud of.
Beautiful. We've talked a lot about very positive points so far. I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a second. And this is a reality for all entrepreneurs. My question is, what was the biggest crisis you've ever had to face, and how did you manage to come through?
Yeah, unfortunately, the biggest crisis has not happened yet, probably.
Interesting.
Meaning that we're very young entrepreneurs. I think the biggest crisis is going to come at some point. After reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, I realized that, okay, like, we know Nike as it is today, but in reality, it just went from crisis to crisis and just persevered to create what Nike is today. So, but that being said, I think it's really just like, and we're in finance, we understand accounting, but living it in real life and managing risk and cash flow when you're very young as a company can be extremely difficult. And at the same time, we didn't want to go into the venture capital path right away. We wanted to create value before going with any kind of external investment. So we bootstrapped everything, which made it more risky, but we wanted to grow it as a VC-backed company. So, which put a lot of stress on the finances and on the cash flow. And a few times we needed to really take drastic decisions to cut costs to make sure that we would survive, and that we could really turn around and make better decisions to survive financially, to reach the end of the year and the point where our bets would come to reality. So I think it's really just The biggest crisis is actually the sum of different small events that concern cash flow management as a young bootstrap entrepreneur, I would say.
Okay. Did you ever think of letting everything go?
Yes, but not for a very long time. So when things are very bad, you're always like, why am I doing this? But at the same time, you just need to stop and think of really why you're doing it. And it's because you're passionate about it, and it's because you love what you're doing. And of course, being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster of different emotions. The highs are really, really high, and the lows are really, really low. So sometimes that's when a partner is extremely useful. Because when you're very low, maybe that other person is right there to support you and to make sure you're not going to go too low. And then when you're going to feel like you're on the top of the world, then that person might feel a little lower than you, and that's where you can support that other person. So yes, it happened, but for a very short time. And I can say thanks to having a great partner with me.
Excellent. And looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, almost everything.
Entrepreneurial.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like building a company, I would say, is just like making mistakes and trying to not repeat them afterwards. That's really how it is. It's like going from failure to failure until you succeed, and that's so true. It's really how it is. Like people from the outside are like, "Oh, that's amazing what you're building. Like it's amazing. Like you're having like so much success for the type of structure that you've put in and the type of business that you have." And for us, we always feel like, "Oh, yeah, maybe," but like the way we see it is more like, "Oh, I don't know. We made like so many different mistakes." But somehow at the end, you just look back and you realize, okay, no, that's not too bad. We made something that is pretty meaningful, pretty nice. So yeah, so I would have done a lot of things differently, but at the same time, I love the mistakes that we're doing because otherwise we wouldn't be learning at all. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And so from these learnings, what would be the most important skills that you have acquired in your career so far?
For sure, stress management is one thing. You need to remain calm and not panic when some things seem to be failing. So you can think straight and really act on it. But other than that, I would say really how to evolve as an individual contributor to a manager, to a leader and a manager together. So it's really hard because when you're a small company like us, at first you're doing everything by yourself. And you become pretty good at it. But at some point, there's too much. You can't. You need to be surrounded by great people, and you need to trust them. And when you trust them, you become, from what I just said, the individual contributor to a manager. But at the same time, you can't be 100% a manager because you're still so small and there's so much to do that you have to put like a foot in both environment. And that's where you need to be very agile, very flexible on how you can decide to jump and take the manager hat and switch it to the individual contributor's hat. But so that, I think that's one skill that will be very useful for the rest of my life. Even though like Solios is at another stage, another level, more and more I will become a manager and a leader rather than an individual contributor. But I understand their reality, and I think that really helps me being a better manager every day.
Okay. And so on that topic, what would be, in your opinion, the biggest difference between a leader in a more traditional organization, more established maybe, versus in a startup?
Yeah. It's like caring for everything, not just caring for what's supposed to be under your umbrella or under your responsibilities. So let's say a leader or a manager in a major organization might be in charge of finance and accounting, and they might care for product development, they might care for branding or for marketing, but it's not their role. Their role is really to optimize what they're doing. Our role as leaders and managers in Solios is to care for every single action that is taken within this company, inside this company. And so even though like there's something that's not under my responsibility, if I see that it's not working well, I need to address it. And addressing it might not mean actually doing it and solving it myself, but I'll need to put something, a structure in place to make sure that someone's going to take care of it properly to make it much better tomorrow. So it's having like, it's really like, I would compare it to like the comparison of like being a parent and being like a kindergarten teacher. Like you work extremely hard as a kindergarten teacher, like don't get me wrong, and you're caring for these children and you have like a mission that is absolutely beautiful, but it's never like, it would never be like if it was your kid. And I think that's a comparison in the business world, I would say.
Excellent comparison, indeed. I have a bonus question on entrepreneurship. What do you think would be the main challenges for an entrepreneur in 2023?
In 2023 specifically, things are pretty tough right now because, and we see it like with the media talking about it and like all the reports of the public companies, and money is not abundant as it was for the past 14 or 15 years. Investors don't want to take as much risk as they used to. People don't want to consume products as they used to. Interest rates are really high. People fear for their very near future. So people are really taking things with caution. And I think that can really hurt businesses that are very young and don't have the luxury of time. Because as a young company, you're really planning for growth, you're planning for new projects, you're planning for hiring people and so as soon as there's something that doesn't work as planned, it can become extremely difficult. So I think that the financial situation worldwide will be extremely difficult for any young entrepreneur in 2023. And the other thing is that, so for like probably 10 years, digital media was something beautiful and I wouldn't say easy, but for sure much easier for small businesses. You could just focus on one growth channel, Facebook ads or organic Instagram, and now like organic TikTok or like something like that, and just focus on one and become extremely successful very rapidly. Right now, I believe that it's going to be much more complicated and it's going to go back to being more like traditional marketing. You need different channels. You need to be multi-channel to really build a structure that is going to be successful on the long run, and not having as much cash and liquidity in the system right now. It might be a little more difficult to really tackle all these channels at once.
Very complete answer. Thank you. So we will now move on to the last section of this interview, which focuses more on your vision, your perspective on leadership. So my first question is, for you, in your opinion, what makes a great manager / what makes a great leader?
So for me, they can be mixed together. They can overlap, but there are two different things. For me, a leader is someone who's going to be able to influence people towards doing something, and following you into doing different things. So you'll need to be a very good communicator. You'll need to be very honest about what you're asking people, what you understand about what you're asking people. If you lead someone towards something that you've never done or you don't understand, I don't think you can be a very effective leader in the long run. You can trick people into being a very good and effective leader in a very short term, but I think at some point it's going to show. And so I think a good leader is someone who's really able to communicate, listen to people, understand his or her subject or topic, to really know like what's reasonable to ask to someone, even though it's really ambitious, and what's too much, what cannot be accomplished. And for that, you need to really understand your subject. A good manager, I think, is really someone who's able to group different type of people with different skill set and really optimize the way that a task or a project is going to be accomplished. So for me, the two must be together to really achieve greatness, but there are different things, there are different characteristics.
Very good. And have you ever had a mentor? We know this is a big thing in entrepreneurship.
I did have different mentors. Yes, I did. I was very lucky to have different mentors. And sometimes I had coaches, which can seem to be mentors, but they're more like short-term. They're more like focus on specific subjects or on business or on, or on a task or a role that you want to have. as opposed to a mentor is really able to go into your personal stuff to make sure that your overall personal development will be ideal. And a real mentor will use everything they know about business and about you to really make sure that you can develop yourself as much as you can. So if they're going to help you with stress management, they're going to help you with personal decisions, they're going to help you with business decisions. And so that's where I think a mentor really differentiates from a coach.
Okay, so you've had multiple.
I've had, yeah, and but not enough. I think I need to be surrounded by much more great people. There's so many times where like we made decisions that happened to be mistakes, and it took maybe months to realize that. And speaking with different mentors or coaches, you can realize that these are mistakes, or even avoid these mistakes in a matter of minutes or hours of discussions with them.
Okay. And like learning from these coaches, mentors, what is your leadership style as of today?
I like to believe that I lead by example. I'm going to be pretty demanding on the people that are working with me. Very, very nice, very friendly with people all the time. But I can be also hard at the same time because I'm never going to ask someone to do something that I would not have done. So if I push you towards doing something, it's because I have done it or I have done something equivalent or just as intense. So I know it's possible. I know it's something that can be achieved. So I like to lead by example, and I can be very demanding, but at the same time, I want to remain friendly. Like I don't want to be seen as the mean boss that is just screaming at people for no reason.
Do you have any examples of cases where you had to put pressure on someone, so to speak, for something that you would have done yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen on a day-to-day basis, but let's say, for example, someone that uses a platform, an email platform such as Klaviyo, the one that we're using, and they just say, I tell them, okay, I'd like to have like this specific segment receiving this kind of email flow to optimize the conversion rate towards our new acquisitions of leads. And that person answers, no, it's not possible. And for me, I know that like technically with a direct path, it's not possible, but there are always workarounds. There might not be a direct answer, but you can find a workaround, present it to me, and then we're gonna discuss if that workaround is worth putting so much time and effort and money into building it. But never answer, it's not possible. It's always possible. And so I had to sit down with that person for 2 whole days and just like do it step by step. And we managed to build a structure, build a flow. And at the end of the day, it was not worth it. So but I just wanted to make a point. I just wanted to make that person realize that it is possible to do it. Come with a solution, come with a proposition, and then we're going to decide together if we're going to continue down that path or if we're going to just cancel it because it's not worth it. But someone that says that something is not possible because the direct answer, the like out of the box solution doesn't offer that solution, that for me doesn't work.
So you're pushing for the optimistic perspective to try and find the solution.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter the situation.
Yeah, always. And that was always the case for me. Like since I was very young, like all the kids always ask the questions like why? And when their parents give answers, they continue by asking like, okay, but why this and why that? And for me, that was a little bit different. I was always asking why, but when my parents were giving me an answer, I was more like, okay, but that doesn't make sense. And it was always like that. Like if I don't like the answer you're telling me, I'm just going to push towards having an answer that I think makes much more sense. And I think I applied that every day in the business world as well.
Okay. So we already kind of saw what you think a good leader is. Do you think anyone could be a leader / a good leader?
I think everyone can be a better leader. So I think that some people have it like naturally, but still need to build it and work around like how to become a better leader in my specific field or with like the specific situation I'm in. And some people don't really have it naturally, but there's always like a part that you are born with and always a part that you can work and improve. And so I don't think everyone can be a very good leader, but everyone can be a better leader, that's for sure.
Excellent. And could you define success in the perspective of being a leader? I will complete my question. Do you think a great leader should be judged more by the people they're responsible for, or for the people they're accountable to above?
I think it's both. I think a great leader is someone. I think a great leader is someone who's gonna manage to build something that will last, even when that person is not gonna be there afterwards. So, if you're building something and as soon as you leave, everything falls apart. For me, you were a good but not a great leader. If you build something where people are so empowered, they have such a clear vision and a clear path on what to do and how to do it best, to a point where even if you leave, these people are going to continue to use that legacy towards improving what you started to build. And you can really leave and having like something very exceptional that is continued. That's like the major, like the best success that a leader can have, I think.
Okay. And do you think there would be some sort of evolution in leadership generally by generation? Do you think that plays a role?
I think that the context is going to evolve. The ways to communicate are going to evolve. The subjects are going to change for sure. But the very basis, the very fundamental of leadership, I think, is always going to remain. I think we're not much different than the leaders in the 1400s or like in the previous times.
Even with all the technology happening?
I think it's just the mean of how we apply it and how we perceive it. And I think it's much easier to trick people into believing that you're a leader now. But I think like real solid leadership fundamentally is quite the same as it used to be.
Beautiful. This is the last question of this section. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and would you give the same piece of advice to your 20-year-old young self?
The best piece of advice that I received was always keep learning. And that's something that I really value. If you're doing something and you're not learning anymore, change right away. For your mental health, for your personal development, for everything you do in life, for the value you can add to more people. Even if you're an expert in something, there's always something more to learn, and you can apply it, or you can just enjoy life knowing that you're a little better than you were yesterday. And I think that's something very meaningful in anyone's life. And I don't think I would do things differently. I think sometimes I was maybe not working enough on learning for myself or improving any specific fields. I had some times in my life, maybe I was just, I didn't have enough focus on how I could improve myself as a person. But yeah, the same concept would apply, and I would say the same thing to my 20-year-old self.
Okay. And so to wrap up this interview, we'll focus on like the last pieces of personal reflection. What do you have left to accomplish?
Everything. Everything. I'm really just starting. I want to change the way the watch industry is made, and I'm not gonna teach anything to like watchmakers and to like how to create a watch. What I want to do is to teach a watch industry on how we can change the way the supply chain and the manufacturing processes work towards having a lower impact, and how we can apply that to all the different consumption objects in our society. And that's going to take a lifetime. That's like a huge challenge for our generation and the next ones, to really know how we can consume without destroying the planet. And that's going to be a never-ending project. So I think I have everything to prove and everything to accomplish in front of me.
Okay, side question though. What if all the watch conceivers would suddenly switch and make the same processes as you and make it like solar and 100% sustainable? What would happen to you?
If there's no improvement left to make, I think I would try to find a different project, because I wouldn't think that I'm adding value anymore. And so, yeah, of course, you can keep making more money, but there's always a way to make money. And our purpose is really to have a positive impact beyond fashion and beyond consumption. So I would definitely go and just find another way to add value somewhere else.
Perfect. Other personal question. If you could have a private meeting with someone, anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
There's a lot of people, but I think I would love to meet with Richard Branson because
Founder of Virgin.
exactly, founder of Virgin. He was someone who really, and he absolutely doesn't know it, but really influenced me in my entrepreneurship path. When I read this book, Losing My Virginity, which is basically how his life evolved towards like building Virgin, and I realized how much he had fun doing business his way and at the same time had a huge success. And that's a mentality that doesn't exist as much as we would like to in the business world. I think a lot of people are just working towards like a financial goal. And for me, that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're not passionate about something, why are you even doing it? And he found a way to really have huge success and at the same time have fun by doing business his way. And that really motivates me every day towards doing things differently. Even though like sometimes we go to watch and clock fairs around the world, in Switzerland and Hong Kong, and we ask like, okay, why isn't this done this way? Like, why aren't you using this material? And the answer is just like, yeah, that's not how it works. And for me, that's not a good answer. So, and that's really what Richard Branson always embraced in his path, is an entrepreneur path. So that's something I'd like to discuss with him for sure.
Excellent. We kind of anticipated the next question. We have like 3 personal favorites to wrap it up. Number 1 is, who is your favorite entrepreneur?
I would say, okay, I'll go with a different answer. I think Phil Knight, for me, the founder of Nike, is amazing. And of course, there has been like drawbacks on like how he made business and how he produces shoes. I think we didn't have enough knowledge back then to understand really the impact of like offshoring production. But for me, it's more like how he built the brand and how he went from crisis to crisis to crisis and always persevered and finally built the Nike that we know today. It's incredibly impressive. I recommend his book, Shoe Dog, to anyone interested in business or in brand whatsoever. It's amazing to understand like how he built that, and the book stops exactly where Nike starts to have the success that we know today. So he really just wanted to show the struggle of being an entrepreneur, and that really resonates with me.
Excellent. That also anticipated with my next one, which was, what's your favorite book or movie? Maybe would that be one?
Shoe Dog would be one for sure. I will go with another one, and it's funny because it's really related to the subject that we've been discussing in this podcast. But the book Good to Great. If you're not interested in business, that might be a little heavy to read, but it's for me one of the best books ever in business, and especially the chapter about the level 5 leadership and how good companies and great companies all had great leaders, but to a different level. And the level 5 leadership really made the difference between the good and the great companies. And what's a level 5 leader? And that for me is incredibly interesting.
Excellent. Number 3, what's your favorite quote?
That's a really good question. I'm not even sure I have one. I'm always like falling in love with a new quote every day. So I don't know if I have one that is, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I had an answer for everything, but this one I'm not even sure. But was it Winston Churchill, that quote that I said earlier that said like, success is going from failure to failure without losing faith that you're going to succeed, or something like that. I'm not even sure I have the quote perfectly. But that for me is something that you need to remember when you're doing something meaningful, because the path, if it's meaningful, is going to be hard. And if it's hard, you're going to want to leave a lot of times, and you're going to have a lot of failures. But these failures will bring you to the top. And that's something that I think we need to apply to anything meaningful.
Amazing. We're getting to the end of this interview. I have a last question. What can we wish you for the future?
Keep meeting great people to surround myself with. It's crazy how much like you're not gonna accomplish anything if you're not surrounded by the right people at the right time. And I've always been a very social guy, so meeting great people all of my life would be something of a great success. For me, that would mean a lot of success. If I can meet people that I think add value to my life until the day that I die, that would be something incredibly meaningful for me.
Amazing. This is a beautiful way to end this. Alexandre, thank you very much for being with us today. This was Alexandre Desabrais for Business Minds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Top. Merci.
Merci. Ah, il faisait chaud.
Ouais.